Hi and welcome to Study Simplified. Today we're going to learn how to work with fractions, including topics like equivalent fractions, comparing fractions, improper fractions and mixed numbers, and how to work out fractions of quantities. Let's start with equivalent fractions. Equivalent fractions are fractions that may look different but are actually equivalent, or in other words, two fractions that represent the same number. Let's take the fraction a half, where 1 is the numerator and 2 is the denominator. We can represent a half using a bar model like this, where we shade 1 out of 2 equal sections. Now we could have split the bar into 4 equal sections and shade 2 of them. Notice that we've shaded the same amount in, or 2 out of 4 equal sections, so we can write this fraction as 2 over 4. Because these two fractions represent the same amount of the bar, we can say that 1 over 2 and 2 over 4 are equivalent or equal to each other. We can take this a step further and split our bar into 8 equal sections, in which case we would have to shade 4 sections in to represent the same amount as our previous two bars. So this is 4 out of 8 equal sections. These fractions are all equivalent. Now, how do we find equivalent fractions? Let's look at the relationship between the fractions. From 1 over 2, if we multiply the numerator by 2 and multiply the denominator by 2, we get 2 over 4. If we multiply the numerator and denominator by 4, we get 4 out of 8. So a quick way to find the equivalent fractions is to multiply the numerator and denominator by the same number. Let's try and find some fractions equivalent to 2/3. Multiplying the numerator and denominator by 2 gives 4 over 6, multiplying by 5 gives 10 over 15. We can do the same with 3 over 10, multiplying by 5 gives 15 over 50, and multiplying by 10 gives 30 over 100. Now, equivalent fractions come in useful when we need to compare or order fractions. Let's take the fractions a half, 5 over 8 and 3 over 5. And our task is to put these fractions in order from smallest to largest. So, how do we compare them? The trick is to find equivalent fractions for each of these fractions where the denominators are the same. Our denominators are 2, 8 and 5, so we need to multiply all these denominators up to the same number. Now the best way of doing this is to find the LCM or lowest common multiple of 2, 8 and 5. 40 is the lowest common multiple of 2, 8 and 5. Go back to the video on LCM and HCF if you're unsure of how to do this. Alternatively, you could have found 40 by just multiplying 8 and 5, which gives us a multiple of both numbers. We ignore 2 because 2 is already a factor of 8. Now let's work out the numerators. For a half, we've multiplied the denominator by 20 to get from 2 to 40, so do the same for the numerator, which gives 20. For 5 over 8, we've multiplied by 5 to get from 8 to 40, so multiplying the numerator by 5 gives 25. And finally for 3 over 5, we've multiplied by 8 to get from 5 to 40, so multiply 3 by 8 to give 24 on the numerator. Now to order them from smallest to largest, compare the numerators. 20 is the smallest, then 24, then 25. So ordering the fractions from smallest to largest gives a half, 3 over 5 and 5 over 8. Let's now take a look at improper fractions and mixed numbers. An improper fraction is a fraction where the numerator is bigger than the denominator, like 9 over 4. 9 quarters can be represented on a bar model like so. It represents 2 wholes and a quarter. To convert 9 over 4 into a mixed number, calculate 9 divided by 4. You can either calculate this mentally or use the bus stop method, which is 2 remainder 1. So we write this as 2 and a quarter. This is a mixed number. To go from a mixed number back to an improper fraction, calculate 2 multiplied by 4 plus 1, which is 9, and write this over 4. Let's use this technique to compare some fractions. Which fraction is bigger, 3 3/5 or 3 4/7? These are both mixed numbers. Let's convert to improper fractions first. For 3 and 3 over 5, calculate 3 multiplied by 5 plus 3 and write this over 5. This is 18 over 5. For 3 and 4 over 7, calculate 3 multiplied by 7 plus 4, which is 25. Now write this over 7, so 25 over 7. Now that we have improper fractions, we can find their equivalent fractions in order to compare them. The denominators are 5 and 7, so the LCM of 5 and 7 is 35, or we could just say 5 times 7 is 35. Our new denominator is 35, so multiply by 7 to get 126 here, and multiply by 5 to get 125 here. 126 is bigger than 125, so 3 3/5 is the bigger fraction. The final bit of theory in this video is how to find fractions of quantities. Here we'll answer questions like how to find a half of 30. In maths, you can sometimes replace the word of with a multiplication sign to give a half times 30. This is useful if you have a calculator. However, we're going to tackle these questions without a calculator. You find half of something by dividing by 2, and 30 divided by 2 is 15. In a similar way, we can find a quarter of 20. Remember, we can write this as a quarter times 20. We can calculate a quarter of something by dividing by 4. 20 divided by 4 is 5. Let's extend this idea to working out 3/4 of 20, or 3/4 times 20. Since we know that 1/4 is 5, we can find 3/4 by multiplying by 3. So 20 divided by 4 to find 1/4, and then multiplying by 3 to give 3/4 is 15. This leads us to a rule we can use to find any fraction of a quantity. That is, divide by the denominator and then multiply by the numerator. Let's try a few examples. 3/5 of 60, or 3/5 times 60, is 60 divided by 5 times 3, which is 12 times 3, which is equal to 36. 7/8 of 48 is 7 over 8 times 48, so 48 divided by 8 multiplied by 7, which is 6 times 7, which is equal to 42. Now we're ready to try some questions on what we've learnt so far. Question 1. Fill in the blanks. Here we need to find the fractions equivalent to 2 over 5. To find the numerator where the denominator is 15, think about what to multiply by to go from 5 to 15. We multiplied by 3, so multiply the numerator by 3 to give 2 multiplied by 3, which is 6. To find the denominator where the numerator is 10, think about what to multiply by to go from 2 to 10. We multiply by 5, so multiply the denominator by 5 to give 5 times 5, which is 25. Therefore, 6 over 15 and 10 out of 25 are both equivalent to 2 over 5. Question 2. Which fraction is bigger, 2 and 2 over 15 or 2 and 1 over 9? Let's first convert both of these mixed numbers into improper fractions. 2 and 2 over 15 is 2 multiplied by 15 plus 2, which is 32, so 32 over 15. 2 and 1 over 9 is 2 times 9 plus 1 is 19, so 19 over 9. Let's find the equivalent fractions with the same denominators so we can compare them. The LCM of 9 and 15 is 45. A quick recap of how to do this is as follows. Because 9 is 3 times 3 and 15 is 3 times 5, using a Venn diagram gives an LCM of 3 times 3 times 5, which is 45. Now let's find the equivalent fractions. For 32 over 15, multiply up by 3 to give 96 over 45. For 19 over 9, multiply up by 5 to give 95 over 45. Since 96 is bigger than 95, 2 and 2 over 15 is the bigger fraction. Note that rather than using the denominator of 45, we could have calculated a denominator of 9 multiplied by 5 is 135. Using this denominator would result in the same answer, that 2 and 2 over 15 is the bigger fraction, but the calculations would be slightly more difficult because the numbers are bigger. Question 3. Find 5/8 of 280. 5/8 of 280, or 5 over 8 times 280, is equal to 280 divided by 8 times by 5. Now 280 over 8 can be found using the bus stop method. 8 into 28 is 3, remainder 4. 8 into 40 gives 5, so 280 over 8 is 35. Now 35 times 5 can be calculated using the grid method or column multiplication. We'll use the grid method here. 30 times 5 is 150, 5 times 5 is 25, and 150 plus 25 is 175. Therefore, 35 times 5 is 175, so 5/8 of 280 is 175. And that's all from us at Study Simplified for now. Like and subscribe if you want to see more course content. See you next time.